Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Dr. Nick's Amazing Man Stuff YouTube channel. And this is the live stream every Tuesday, 1 p.m. Eastern, specifically titled The Doctor's Orders. And this is the show where I am a co-host, and the other co-host that can see the title, and it says, let's talk about everything. And he doesn't know about anything that we're talking about. He has no idea. So today we are going to talk about everything. Anything you guys want to talk about, we have let me give just a little appetizer here just in case. We got a fresh, brand new with a couple leftovers, the wheel of topics of random tangents. And so it will be going down today. So shout out to Max, shout out to Amber, shout out to anybody that submitted some of the topics for today. We will get into all of those, and Nick doesn't know any of them, which is
I love it. Except for
part.
you said new ones, you said some repeat, you said some leftovers, but then of course you didn't mention the standby
Right.
of Cracker Nasty. I love it.
And if you guys are new here, he did say Cracker Nasty. That was the words that came out of his mouth. So more to come on that. And just so you guys know, we had like a quick catch up before the stream. None of it was, hey, what are we talking about today? Hey, are people going to show up? Hey, what we just get started and we just bring you guys into this conversation.
You'd think that would be like on the top of my list of questions. You
Yeah.
know, like if people were like, okay, what does Nick ask Dan? What do they talk about when they haven't talked in a couple of days?
Yep.
Except briefly. And what does he ask? Like that, you'd think I if I was going to make a list, what are we talking about today? Should definitely be like, it would be right at the top.
There we go.
But however, that was not one of my questions today.
No, didn't even feel it on his brain. And
Nope.
Timothy, great call. He said, almost missed it. Thank goodness for YouTube alerts. I guess this would be an appropriate time to welcome you guys. If you want to check to see if you hit the thumbs up to kind of give back for free by just simply saying, hey, I like this. Check to see if you're subscribed so you can get involved in the chat, in the community. You guys can ask questions. You can get feedback. You can add jokes, whatever you guys want to do. And another thing, I don't know if I've ever actually said this on this channel and on my own channel. It's very, very rare. But next to the subscribe button, there is a little bell. And if you click that bell, like Timothy here, if you forget about a stream, it will alert you when this channel goes live. Now, it's not perfect. YouTube has some glitches with it. But a little known fact is if you, I believe, hold the bell or there's something else to click by it, you actually can customize the alerts that you receive. And so it can be for new videos, new live streams, that type of stuff. And so you can even dial it into exactly what you want it to alert you. So if you don't mind, thumbs up, subscribe, and maybe hit that alert because I get messages all the time of people that are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I missed it. I was just at work and I wasn't even thinking. And hey, that could save you guys out there. So, Timothy, thank you. And welcome to the mom of the show, Miss Julie.
The moderator of all moderators. My mom, the moderator of me, which is the mommerator.
Mommerator. There it is.
The mommerator. That's what it is.
New role.
New role. Mommerator. YouTube needs to have that, by the way.
Yes.
So, I mean, talk about the hardest moderator job of all. This poor woman had to moderate me.
She had a unique challenge, but also I would dare to say had a unique approach. And can I take it a step further and say there have been some unique results?
Well, I mean, there has. We were part of a top secret government experiment trying, really outlandish, parenting techniques called things like connection and compassion, which was really, really out there for the 80s. That was a weird one.
I saw a video today that was by a guy my age. I forget what generation I am, but whatever generation I am. And he was like, I know where we messed up as, what am I, guys? I was born in 88. I don't know what I am, but.
I mean, you're like Gen Z or something.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure. And he was, I forgot what he said, but he was like, our generation messed up with parenting because our parents were like, if you mess with the bull, you get the horns. And they like stick with that. And they are like really adamant. He's like, we're like that until comes time and your kid's 7 minutes late for curfew. And you're like, it's not that bad. He's all right. And then the top comment just set me rolling. The top comment had said, hey, Jill, the top comment said, or we actually like our kids. I was like, dude, from some older generations, and it was just funny. I thought that was hilarious. And your mom would be kind of going against the grain with a lot of the parenting at that time, and
She
even
was.
today, in the way she raised you and the way she gave you freedom to express yourself, freedom to explore who you were, freedom to see the whole country and world and different cultures. And I've heard a lot of stories that people probably haven't heard. And for me, it's a very refreshing approach. And you're quite a unique human. There's not many people you meet that's like, oh yeah, he reminds me of Nick. That just doesn't happen.
That's the funny thing. I've literally never been told that like my whole life. Like the whole oh, you remind me of my friend so and so.
Right.
Like I hear people say that to other people, and I'm always like, how come no one ever says that to me? And then I've kind of realized, I was like I was a rough outline. I was like a prototype, right? I was never really made for mass production. I would say never really.
Batch.
Yeah, exactly.
Small batch. I'm not talking about your height either.
That's real nice.
Not related.
Yep. Okay. And by the way, I am looking at a chart here. Just like me, and I did not know this, according to 5 charts that I just told were wrong and clicked on. The next one up, we are both millennials.
Okay.
Which I used to say by policy I didn't hire millennials back when I was hiring people at my last consulting company. But it says right here, born between 81 and 96. Okay. Which means I think there's some like subcategories because we decided that like we crapped on millennials too long, so we needed to make new buckets for ourselves. But I think that's just a symptom of that. I think those are insecurity buckets. I don't think those are real.
Interesting. And every generation has generalities and pros and cons. What I love about the millennials is we grew up in a time before current technology. And when I say grow up, I mean like elementary, middle school, and high school.
Formative years.
Formative years. Yeah. Facebook did not launch until I was in college. The iPhone came out when I was driving in late high school. Like these things came later in my life. And so we grew up in our kid years, our formative years before those things. But then in our young adult years, all of that stuff came rushing in. So we've got this weird, like actual bridge. And you have other ones, right? Like Gen X, where they grew up for their formative years and their young adult years without these things. And then as an adult had to learn this whole new world. So it's interesting to think about those generational changes.
It is. Yeah. Gen X was it says here 65 to 80.
Okay. Yeah.
Which
is a big group. Like that's a big range.
It is. And it says baby boomers were 46 to 64, which to me just seems like lazy math assignment there. I mean, again, I just want to, when things are too coincidental like that, I don't believe you.
Right. You just rounded.
You just flipped the last 2 numbers and said, that looks good. It's like an anagram. Let's use that. Let's use those.
Yeah.
But so you got and then you got, of course, the 1922 to 27, which I would have to believe is just self-titled here, called the greatest generation. And then you got the silent generation, of course.
The roaring 20s, eh?
The roaring 20s, roaring with their boisterous modesty.
Yeah. Yep. And G squared, you're right. That first iPhone that was like metal and had the little black like butt on the bottom.
Hell yeah.
And it was rounded. Like when that dropped, because at the time we only had Blackberries. We only had
Nextels.
Yeah, exactly. We only had a few things like the like flip razor one that like
oh yeah, I had one of those.
And
hello Moto.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I had. And then the iPhone came out and it was a different world. It quite literally changed the world forever.
Yeah. It did. I mean, it did. It still is.
Yeah, right. And also, welcome to everybody. If you're like, how the heck are we talking about generations? And that's what we do. We're just here to talk to you guys. We're never selling stuff. We're never doing any of that. We're just here to talk to you guys. And speaking of you guys, shout out to Dan B, Leo, Dennis, Max, Mr. Banana Go, Warlock Will, Amber, Dynamite, Timothy, Shane, Jacob, John, Arden, Jill, what up, O'Keefe? And G squared up in here. Anybody I missed? Kev, Ben.
Number awesome. 21 in today.
Yes. Welcome, you guys. I love it. Absolutely love it.
Hell
Yeah,
yeah.
there were Droids before the iPhones, but they were very, like, today they're similar, right? And Nick
Well,
recently went from Droid to iPhone. The gap between the first iPhone and the existing Androids, it's insulting to call both of those smartphones.
you
Insulting.
know, it's funny, man. So like the early on Android, what you're referring to there was the Droid before
Right.
the iPhone. Yeah. So like the
Yes.
Google Droid, like the
Yes.
old ones, right? And yeah, so but what's funny is, and then you look at a bunch of them, like the Sidekick, it ran a flavor of Android, but it wasn't calling it Android yet. It was just running Open Phone Linux.
Right.
And like all those old phone OSs, they rebranded it as Android, and then they came out with like the actual Droid,
Yep.
right? And it's like the gap between those, I think, is still equidistant to the gap that we have between iPhones and like the most, my most recent whatever the hell it was, Samsung. It's like the gap was real. Like I didn't want to believe it either. Like I told myself a long time ago, it's like, listen, they might have better hardware. The OS might be okay, but until they stop using proprietary connectors, I'll never use it. And then someone's like, okay, so it's better. You realize that, but you won't use it because the connector. I'm like, the day they switch to open standards based connectors and stop being idiots, I'll jump the fence. And then so they did, and I did. And man, holy crap. It's like, it's a different world. Like I can copy something on my phone and then I get on my MacBook and it's like, oh, I can just Command V and paste it onto my web browser there. And like, oh, I had a tab open there. Oh, I can just open that over here. And oh, I need to take this call real quick and flip it off of here and throw it onto my computer and then pop video up. Oh, I can do that. And it's like everything just works. I was like, wow.
So I had a similar path. I started with the iPhone 1, waited in line, camped out literally in high school, did the whole deal, went and upgraded every year because that was like the only thing I cared about spending money on was getting the new phone. And now I try to go as long as I can without upgrading, but I did it every year. And then around the time when Apple got busted for like killing the battery because they had a new phone coming out, I also had my phone chargers, like a little phone charger. Got one right here. The cord would always like fray and get disconnected right at the top, right at the end of it. And it drove me crazy.
Yeah.
So I switched to Android because at that time they had wireless charging when Apple did not. And that was my selling feature. I rode with Android for years. And then I forget what it was, but something got me to switch to Apple, and I was team Android. I was talking about the camera megapixels. I was talking about how it's more, you can more customize it. It's not just like basic user friendly. And then I switched back to iPhone.
You're like,
Like, oh, okay, this is better in
yeah.
every single way.
You're like, oh yeah, this worked out better.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's things like AirDrop and iMessage and just the way they connect things and the ease of use. It's just so much better, much better. And I'm sure there's like coders and programmers and high level people that love Androids, but Nick is as tech advanced as anyone on this planet, and he's felt the difference.
I just run it all in virtual machines now. I let my stupid little Windows box sit there and run as a VM for anything I need it to. And it even fires up and runs Windows better than my PC ran Windows. So, I mean, it's not like you can, and my battery lasts for like 16 hours. And I have 128 gigs of RAM and 4 terabytes of storage in this thing. And I can render 4K video for 8 hours with no outlet. So it's like,
with no, oh my God, that's crazy.
There's not really any way to compare it to where I was with my Dell. Like I could render 4K. I had like a $3,500 Dell XPS. It was like this nice one. Just sent it to my buddy Gabe. And I could render 4K video for an hour and a half on that with no plug and it would die. And the fan, it sounded like a hovercraft the whole time it was doing it too. This thing doesn't even kick the fans on.
Right. And Amber says, I can't make myself cross that bridge yet. And trust me, Nick was there. It's
a personal discovery. You'll know when you're ready.
Yep.
No one can force you into it. It really is a personal journey. And it's one you should go on yourself,
And it's when you get there, you'll know you're ready. Nick had a little incentive to make the jump over, and it got him going.
I was bribed.
Yeah, and he arrived. It really is like you get there, and it's just like, like a weight. And people talk about the cameras. My favorite thing is when people take the pictures of the moon with their Android, and I'm not 100% on this. You guys can fact check me, but I'm pretty sure this is true and not a wives' tale. the Android picture you see of like the moon, where you can see like the little indentations and the crazy graphics and stuff, that's not just the naked picture. I believe there's some software and AI behind the phone that is generating what it should look like rather than what it actually is.
You know,
And
I don't know. That was one of those rabbit holes where like I actually saw it ahead of time for what it
yeah,
was as a rabbit hole, and I was like, no, you're not gonna get
not you're
me.
digging,
Not
digging
getting
deep,
me
Jay.
this time. Don't care enough to look.
Because that one's deep. That one.
Oh yeah, no,
That.
not doing it. I have to
Mm-hmm.
be careful where I let my brain do that. I can't always control how long it spends there and exactly what sort of resources it's going to consume getting to the bottom of something. So I need to make sure something's damn well worth it before I even look at it sometimes,
Yeah.
or else I'm in trouble.
And I rarely send Nick content that's not Beard or Dr. Nick's related because I know where that rabbit hole can go. I messed up recently and I found a YouTube channel that highlights the biggest stories in reenactments from 4chan.
Oh
So,
yeah.
for example, they just broke down this guy who documented robbing a bank through 4chan and then getting caught and arrested. And it was like 20 minutes of just the most mind-numbingly amazing content and just like, wow. And like, it's endless. The amount of stories that come from this and this channel is just unbelievable. I will not tell you what it is, even when you ask me, because it will consume you. And I just can't let you do that.
Dude, if I had any more subreddits coming at me, which are copies of 4chan content, I'd be in big trouble.
Big trouble.
There'd definitely be like I'd be on like some kind of QAnon watch list if I had any more 4chan activity than I already have.
This guy frequents 4chan. This guy's a cybersecurity expert. This guy, like, what's going on here?
Yeah, you know, it was funny. I was working with a new CPA, and we started going back and forth. And I sent him a link. He asked me to upload some stuff to him and send him some copies in email. And so instead of sending it through email, because I don't want to do that, I don't want to have multiple copies of stuff floating around. I'd like us to look at and make changes to the same copies of things. So I sent it with an encrypted Dropbox link, and I sent it over to him that way. And he calls me back, and he's like, so I haven't looked at your documents yet. And I was like, no, why? And he's like, well, I'm kind of half wondering if this is like one of those tests where like corporates like testing me here. If I'm supposed to like click on a link, like
Yeah.
I looked at your LinkedIn, I see what you do, and now you sent me a link, and I have a feeling like I'm supposed to call you and
Smart.
verify that like you're the one that sent that to me, right? With like maybe like a video call or something. And I'm like, I don't work for anyone who's testing you. I promise. I mean, that is what I do, and it's good that you called me. But let's just go ahead and look over the documents. And he's like, okay, well, what other steps am I supposed to take to like authenticate that like you are who you say you are? And I was like, dear God, my LinkedIn is making my call with my CPA take an extra 10 minutes. And I have a feeling he's billing me for it.
Right.
And, you know, and here he's just, and I'm like, finally he gets past, he's like, man, that was really funny. I really thought you were like setting me up there for
testing.
I thought this was like the guy that was like trying to get me to click on the link that gets me fired.
Yeah, they did that in teaching. They'd send out these fake phishing emails to see who was dumb enough. And it was like at one time we had 40% of the staff click it.
Yeah. And those are educators.
Right. With degrees.
These are the people teaching your kids how to be a good person and not make stupid choices.
Right. In a wrong
and there they are, starting off every day with a good old bucket full of stupid.
And those links will, if you get someone into the education system, that's HIPAA violations, that's privacy of grades, that's like custody information. Like we have to have all of that.
The biggest one for schools, people wouldn't guess it, but the biggest leak that people get from schools is Department of Justice information.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I believe
it's like the biggest exposure they get dinged for because they end up releasing stuff about, like you said, custody and protective orders and learning programs and IEPs and 504 protective orders, 501Cs. You know, next thing you know, all of a sudden it's like disclosure of a whole bunch of really bad stuff.
Yes. Look at Leo's mic drop right here. When I was consulting, a customer wanted to buy an Apple and have me teach him. I was Microsoft, but he said he only trusted me and bought me a Mac. I never looked back.
That's hilarious, dude.
Wow.
I love that. Like, similar to me, they were like, hey, are you up for like hardware refresh this year? And I'm like, well, yeah, we buy new laptops every year. And they're like, what do you use? And I'm like, well, I go in, you know, I have a Dell XPS. And they're like, what would it take to make it so you go into those meetings and open up a MacBook and you had like a Mac logo there? And I was like, well, what else do I have to do? They're like, nothing. They're like, just start showing up doing what you do, but with a Mac and an iPhone. And I was like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. I need a new computer anyway. Next thing you know, like I have a thing, like a button here, like that switches back and forth between, see if I can see it. It's this little guy. And this switches back and forth between my tower and my MacBook dual monitor setup. So it has 4 HDMI cables coming in, 2 coming out, and all my other network stuff and plugs hooked into it. So whatever button is, if this light's on the left or the right, it either takes all my connections and swings them to my MacBook or takes all my connections and swings them to my tower. This button might as well not even work. Like I haven't switched over to do anything in
wow.
like I don't even know, like 6 months.
Wow. That's amazing. Amazing. And yeah, it's all interesting. A lot of people are, O'Keefe says 90% of people click on them where he's at. And Max was one of them. He said, I've clicked on too many.
Oh, dude. Yeah. You click on too many. You have to start going through reprogramming.
Yeah. Nick, I did that button. What is it? Oh, I think he says he digs. What's the name of that connector?
So it's called a KVM, which is just a keyboard video mouse switch. So if you go on Amazon, you can find lots of KVM switches, they call them. And you can have 4 computers hooked up to, 1 keyboard, 1 mouse, 1 microphone, 1 video camera. And you plug all those connections into the back of this KVM. So they have common USB, and then they have individualized USB for certain stuff that only goes to one or the other. And then you can have a hotkey, like you push a key combo on your keyboard that switches between the two, or you can use the little button that I put under my desk, a little piece of Velcro. And that way you don't have to switch around your cable. So if you have a work computer and a home computer, what a real easy way to do it is get a dock for your laptop, connect that laptop USB-C or whatever to the dock, and then hook all the connections from the dock into the switcher. And then so, if you have work computer, home computer, you plug it in. That way you don't have to have cables all over the damn place. You have a nice little spot where you put it. Don't even need to open it. Plug it in, hit the button, boom.
There you go. There you go. Nate says, nerd talk. I'm here for it. That's right.
Hell yeah.
That's right.
I know you are, Nate.
Massive nerd talk. Congratulations, because landed his first IT job.
Hell yeah, because the journey begins, Brandon. I mean, that's where it starts, dude. It's just, and it's like I told you, don't be concerned where you get in. Like you say, you got your first IT job, and that's what matters. You got your foot there, you got the resume builder, and then you're just going to start going like this. You're going to start looking around, being like, oh, what are they doing? What do those guys do? And next thing you know, you're going to be focusing on exactly what you want to focus on. It's going to be school, except for actually things that you want to do and care about.
And get paid for.
And get paid for it.
Rather than paying for it. Yep.
That's pretty sweet.
So true. And because if you go add value to their life and to their job, I promise you can do whatever you want with that job, man. So just focus on that. And he says, IT support for a middle school. Oh, very cool. Something I'll be proud of. Dude, love it.
And that's killer, because that's like, schools are great because they're intimate teams, and you're going to be able to get to do a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of this, because they kind of all sort of depend on each other, and they love when, the streams cross. So that's going to be cool, dude. You're going to get all kinds of good experience there. You're going to be running that place.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. And, final thing on the iPhone, Android, G Squared, you took the thoughts out of my own head. He said, like, people talk about the customization of Androids being more than iPhone. He's like, I don't need all that. Me too. Apple makes things so great, and it just shows me what is the best way, and I use that. I don't need to spend my time looking through thousands and thousands of apps to find what I need because it's open sourced and all this stuff. No, just give me the iMessage. That's the best one. Give me all these functions, and I still don't know anybody that has an Android where I've been like, that's a feature I wish I had.
There's nothing that I've ever wanted to go customize on the iPhone and been like, oh, it doesn't let you do that. Like, I customized the crap out of mine, and I've literally never ran into a roadblock. That didn't used to be the case, It used to be pretty damn limited, and now you can put your icons wherever you want them without having them automatically left justify. That's really nice. So if you feel like having a row of icons down the middle now, you can. They finally came off of that nonsense. So it's like, what I found, though, is I used to run rooted iPhones, and I used to run jailbroken Androids, and I used to run tons of third-party stuff that you weren't supposed to run. But now with Xcode on a Mac, you can sideload anything you want without rooting your iPhone. And at the same time, what became more important to me was having a phone that worked and a battery that stayed consistent. And I found that even when I was on Android doing all that customization, a lot of that stuff was battery eaters because it wasn't well-refined software.
Yep.
So I stopped running all the heavily customized stuff anyway on my daily phone because it wasn't practical for like a reliable phone anymore. So it's like, once I stopped doing all that, there was really no difference between the two ecosystems from that standpoint.
Yep.
So I only ran stable stuff anyway.
The one feature that I missed from Android when I switched was my phone. As an Android, I could set the time on the lock screen, and I could use it kind of like not an alarm clock, but just like an alarm clock on the side of the bed to know the time. Forever, iPhone wouldn't do it. Now, if your phone is charged, I don't know if you guys can see over here, it's not going to show the time that well. Yeah, I'll go right there. If your phone is charging and you put it on its side, look at my case here. It's got a little kickstand on it. But when it's charging and it's on your side, you set this feature and it lets you have the time. It lets you customize it. I can go to like different options for it, for like the colors and just the layout of it. And that is how it sits on the side of my bed at night. And so I know what time it is when Violet wakes up yelling for me and screaming and all that. So I know like, 1:27. All right, Violet, go back to bed. And
Hell
so,
yeah.
That's a
much.
beautiful feature.
Everywhere I am now too, I don't know if I can get it from behind my desk, but like I got like these little like desktop and like tabletop little power things here. Like, let's see, this little guy. So you got like these little globes. Yeah. And like I just have one of these pretty much like everywhere. And like, you know, it's got your power, but also on the front, it's got your wireless charging pad. So you just put your phone on there sideways and it just sits there on your desk, wireless charging sideways, magnetically mounted there. And then you got plugs for all your other crap. You got like USB chargers and chargers, all kinds of stuff.
Tech is so fun. It's like
endless. Hooray for the future.
Yeah, endless. So
Speaking of hooray for the future, these Ouroboros sparkling waters, you know, whenever I want something with 0 calories and, you know, something refreshing here to just wake my brain up in the middle of the day, Ouroboros 0 calories, sparkling water enriched with strawberry and basil and nothing but natural flavors and no artificial sweeteners really does it for me. Thanks, future.
We're working
one of these days, we're going to pick up a sick sponsor. Yep. We're all going to have so many sparkling waters. We don't even know what to do with it. We're going to have green tea. Oh, it's going to be great.
Dude, we're working on our brand deals, you guys. All right. It's just practice at this point.
Just practice.
Yeah. We're getting it down. One day they'll pay us somehow.
One day they're going to pay one of those invoices.
Yep. We keep sending them. And
yes, 8.
Yeah. They've not even responded yet, but they're going to keep.
Which, by the way, just rude.
Yeah.
Just
and interest. I want to warn them. Interest adds up quick.
Does those penalty? Oh, and those fees. Those fees is what really gets you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Couple quick questions for you, Nick. All right. First, where did it go? And these are just put on the back of the brain. Dan B, when life's not crazy, wants to talk about his social security number getting compromised.
Oh,
Any
boy.
General surface advice for anybody that has their social compromised?
Yeah, lock your credit files. You know, hit TransUnion, Experian, Equifax, and have them put a pin on your credit file. That way, no one can ever file a credit inquiry without you getting a text to authorize the credit check, which is fantastic. They all have those systems in place now. And then oftentimes you'll see it under, put it on they say a fraud alert, put on a fraud alert. And everyone's like, oh, I don't want to click that. That just locks your credit file and lets you put a pin on it. And so that's really important. And then if you haven't already, also call the IRS and make sure that you file a request for a personal identification number every year. They'll mail you one when it comes tax season. They'll mail you a 4-digit PIN, and your tax professional, whoever that is, or yourself, or through TurboTax, you'll need to put that PIN in order to file a return, because that's like the biggest thing right now for socials is people filing returns, Social Security benefit returns, and claims under your social and birth date. So if you lock your credit file, and then you put that on your IRS profile, which you can do online. You don't even need to call them and sit on hold forever. I was like, I'm not going to call the IRS. Just go online. You should have your online tax transcript access and profile set up through One ID anyway. It's a good idea. That way you can take care of correspondence and stuff digitally and keep an eye on things. But also to be able to set those pins. But if you do those, that's not, any service that does that for you and charges you monthly. All they're doing is running a credit monitoring service, just like you can get for free through Credit Karma. So if you don't have that, get it. Also for free through most banks. They give you Experian access and stuff like that. Bank of America and those guys. Hit it up, see what you can get for free for credit monitoring. Put locks on everything, and then you're literally doing what like LifeLock would be doing for you, except you're doing it all for free, and you're doing it yourself, and you have access to all of it.
Dang. There you go, Dan. Thank you, Nick. I didn't
Oh
know
yeah.
any of that. So very helpful.
Yeah. It's all free stuff too. And it's all anybody ever does.
There you go.
Any final decision on November? Yes, unfortunately, it's a no. I wished it was a yes, but unfortunately, there is just a lot. There's a whole lot going on. And
right.
On top of a whole lot going on, I mean, there's always a lot going on, but on top of a lot going on, just kind of professionally, there's a lot going on personally, right? There's a lot of like just kind of, it's all good stuff, which is good, but it just has us very occupied, and it also kind of has us rooted locally for the foreseeable future here, just at least for the rest of the year. We just got too much stuff, and Jill and I are trying this radical new approach to life where we are trying to maybe only schedule ourselves for things that aren't going to stress us out, give me more great beer hairs, and take away time with each other. And so it's that time of year where it just gets so busy and so much going on anyway. We kind of said, you know what? Let's just hunker down. Let's focus on us. Let's focus on Dr. Nick's. Let's focus on the holidays with family, and just make hay while the sun is shining before it gets crazy with holidays and everything else. So it's just one of those things where we had to do a little bit of a sanity check this year and slow ourselves down a little, because we don't want to get to the end of the year and feel like we're running a marathon again with like a lion chasing us, And so if I had to sum it all up into one thing, why I'm not making it this year, is we have prioritized mental health over extraneous activities from now for the rest of the year.
Yeah, and I respect the heck out of that. One thing I've learned is we all have like imaginary finish lines, whether it's short, whether it's long. And it turns out those don't actually exist. And what I mean by that, you guys, is let's say the beard industry, Dr. Nick's, Dan C. Bearded, right? Two companies heavily seasonal. We can kind of tell ourselves, hey, Q4 is going to be crazy. October, November, December is going to be wild. But guess what, guys? It does not slow down in January. Nope. Sure as hell does not slow down in February. Guess what? March is crazy. April is crazy. And then every single like finish line where you're like, once we get through this, it'll be no, it just doesn't work that way. There's always stuff. There's always things. So if you're pushing off mental health because of some imaginary finish line that you think you're going to get to and all of life opens up, it's just not true. And it's the same with kids. You can say, oh, once they're in school, it'll be easier. No, then you have school problems. Once they're a little bit older and can do this, no, then you have older problems. So those imaginary finish lines don't exist. Stop waiting for the perfect moment to make changes. Just buckle up, make the change, and do what you need to. And I have nothing but all the applause in the world for Nick and Jill on that approach.
Dude, you have to do it. You know what I mean? And it's just like people are like, oh, well, when the opportunity arises, you need to take it. You need to seize the moment. Well, sometimes that opportunity isn't the things that are coming at you. They're the things that are already in front of you. And they're the things that are like inside of you, right? So sometimes there's an opportunity for personal growth, right? And then there's these opportunities that come at you, right? And so how do you classify in your mind like what is a distraction and what is an opportunity? And sometimes distractions come in the form of other opportunities. So you really do need to prioritize, and you gotta think about, once in a while you have to be selfish. And what I mean by that is not selfish like as a person, but like selfish for like your family and selfish for like your life, right? And you just have to sometimes say, you know what, that opportunity came because of what I'm doing, and if I don't keep my life, if I don't do things for myself, those opportunities aren't going to keep coming. But if I do, there's never been a time where I've prioritized like mental health or like time with my family, and then all of a sudden opportunity stopped coming, right?
Right.
It's not like that happens. It's not like you make a choice to do something for yourself or your family, then all of a sudden external things stop coming because they're like, oh, well, he didn't take that last time, so let's not ask him.
But like, we're programmed to think that.
Yeah. And if anything, absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? You tell people no a couple of times, they're going to start coming at you with better opportunities sometimes to try to entice you into doing things that maybe you would have taken the low hanging fruit before, and because you played a little hard to get, maybe they're going to value your time a little more. So, I mean, there's some crazy side effects that happen from just kind of taking a minute, having some patience with yourself, and don't let yourself get revved up to the same pace as the world around you sometimes.
That's crazy on timing. I had a gut shot message today. So the Columbus Crew our favorite soccer team in the world, the team that the
Yep.
boys dream of playing for. They
Yeah.
start their playoffs on Tuesday, the 29th. And I've gotten in pretty good with them, you know, and I've got the personal numbers of two of the marketing guys, and we just started kind of working together. We did one official game where they took us out there, treated us great and all that stuff. Well, now it's the playoffs. If anybody knows anything about sports, the playoffs just ramp everything up.
Yep.
Well, I got a text today and said, hey, are you around on the 29th, from their lead marketing influencer director. I had already committed to another engagement on a Tuesday night. It's a live stream. I'm not paid for this. I'm not compensated at all. It's something I like doing. I want to do. I told the Columbus crew, I already have committed to something. I'm not able to go to this. And that was one of the hardest replies I've ever had, because my mind went down that dark, insecure tunnel of, they reached out. I'm no big deal. I'm no big influencer. And I'm not. Like, I hope you guys understand that. I'm not saying that. Like, in the grand scheme of things, I'm not. At a Columbus Crew game, I'm not recognizable. I'm not moving the needle. But they see the value in the future, and they still reached out, still want to send us to the game and take care of us and all that stuff. My mind goes to, I said no, I blew it. They're never going to bring me up again. And
Nope.
and I know it's not true.
Right.
But it's
That's what your mind tells you, though.
It's so hard to fight that. So hard to fight that. But at the end of the day, I had made a prior commitment, regardless if I'm compensated for it or not. I said yes. I do believe a lot of people with that opportunity would run back to the other one and say, I'm so sorry, I got to cancel. An opportunity came up. I can't miss it. I just now, like, this is just before this stream, sick to my stomach over it, told them no, that I'm not going to cancel on this. And my hope is that, and I explained, I already have a prior commitment that I can't break for work, for content. I hope they see that as, wow, that's a stand-up guy. If he commits to us, so we know he got him. And so it's just crazy that you said that we think
it's
it
so
goes
true.
away.
They should respect you for that. Like, if they have any integrity, like, they'll respect that decision, you know, because they'll hope that you do that for them, where if they have an engagement with you, you know, you're not going to come back to them and say, hey, something else popped up and I'm going to take it because it's more interesting. You know, it's kind of like when people get into a relationship, you know, by like cheating on their significant other with a new partner. You know what I mean? It's like, how's that new partner ever going to trust that person if, like, they got together while they're cheating? You know what I mean? It just kind of sets the tone of someone who kind of isn't necessarily someone you want to depend on.
100%.
It's I feel like it's the same way in business. You know, you gotta let people know what you're made of, and if they don't respect it, then it might not be people you actually wanted to work with anyway.
Right. I think about that stuff when I hear people cheating on their spouse, or like thinking of divorcing or leaving their spouse. And I'm like, okay, think of your spouse's like worst traits, the worst moments. Do you, and think about your worst traits and your worst moments and how they put up with it. The people that you're thinking of at this like golden pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, do you think there's a chance that their worse is worse? Do you think there's a chance that their acceptance is worse? Because in most cases, it probably is. Not all. I know there's crazy situations out there, but it's not always better. And you, if you're cheating or you're in that situation, I'm sure it's lust and joy and like everybody's happy. What about when that wears off? Is the worst worse? You know? And so I will be honest. It was a gut shot. It friggin' hurt. I actually went to Taco Bell after because I was so like upset about it. I wanted to go eat some terrible food for you and just feel good about myself and have a Baja Blast and kind of put that away, knowing I had the stream to pick me back up. But I will be honest, and I'm rarely vulnerable at the point where it's like, oh, that was hard for me because I just don't have those moments. That was very difficult to send that message back to them and say, no, this happened. Please keep me in mind for the future. That sucked. It really did, because I love the crew so much. I want to work with them. I want to grow with them. But I did make a commitment, and I am staying true to it. And it's so weird that you brought that up. Like, I didn't even tell you about it. Like, I didn't even say anything.
Dude, yeah, I mean, go figure. But I mean, it's, you know, it's one of those things too. It's like, I feel like I've always done that too with people that like I really respect. You know, if I had something else and someone that like I really respect wants to involve me in something, then I'm like, oh shit, how do I cancel everything I'm doing to make sure I do this thing with this person? But then what I realized is that person didn't gain my respect because they gave me their time willingly and prioritized me over everyone else. those people were typically pretty hard to spend time with. And it was a series of other events that like gave me the respect I have for those people. So making yourself available to people you respect is not going to get you the same respect you had for them. Like,
true.
You're going to gain their respect through things like that, and for them seeing your character and for the things that you build with them, and it's weird, like trying to be and it's funny because with you and I, it's tough. It's just like with anybody. It's like you and I are addicted to success and accomplishments and getting things done and knocking things off of a list and taking on as much as we can and getting it all done.
Yep.
And so, sometimes it's like, we got to tell ourselves that it's like, okay, like which motivation of me is wanting to do this one that wants to show that I can do more things than other people, or the one that like truly believes this is the right thing to do.
Yep. And here's the exact response by them. They said, I totally understand. We have a potential third game on the calendar. Hopefully we don't need it. If that doesn't work, we'll have a future round.
See, that's it.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks for being honest. Sounds good. There'll be more.
Yes, there will be, and I'm gonna have a great time with my prior commitment and stuff, and so it's all good. But just understand, if anybody's like, dude, I relate to that, yeah, you're not alone. It sucks at any time, and yeah, always got people to talk to if you ever need someone to reach out to. And
hell yeah,
guys. Mm-hmm.
As always,
let's get into it. I don't know how, but it's 42 after right now. I'm sorry, you guys. I planned on doing a whole lot more of this, but we're here now, and
we'll speed around it.
Yeah, we'll knock out as many as we can. And the thing is, this isn't going anywhere, guys. You'll see the show has had like different ebbs and flows and journeys. We literally just go with what feels. Here's a crazy concept, guys. Get ready here. Nick, nice and close. When we plan this stuff, when we go with all these things, we just simply go with what feels right.
Whoa.
Like what we want to do and talk about is what we do. Like I have these in. There's no producer that's like, cut to the wheel, get to it now. Like we just do what we want. Like if there was a business course, yeah, they're probably telling us to talk about Dr. Nick's products and a sale and new stuff coming and why you should buy and miss. But we don't want to. Like, that's not what we want to do right now. So this is a crazy concept that we're trying, just talking about what we want.
Yeah. Nuts. It's crazy.
Crazy.
Yeah. I know. All it's right. A little out there.
It is. So let's go ahead and hit this wheel. It's going to be a random tangent. We would love for you guys. What's this? Oh, so it's the random tangent wheel submitted by you guys, specifically on the Dr. Nick's Instagram page. And these are all topics that you guys want to talk about. And we'll kind of demonstrate right now with the very first one.
Give it a whack.
Mm-hmm. Come on. No whammies. No whammies. No whammies. These things. No way. I swear to you guys, I am not rigging this thing. There's no features here for me to, it doesn't let me scroll, to like put more, wow. Okay, Nick, do you have another Cracker Nasty story for us?
Of course I do. All right, so let's talk about the time that involves a frozen crocodile head in Cracker Nasty's new grenade launcher.
What? Okay, all right. Run that back. You need to say that again. We just had Tony enter the chat and Chris enter the chat, and they need to hear that one more time.
So for anybody that's just listening or might be just tuning in, we have spun the wheel of random topics submitted by you guys on our Instagram channel, and that wheel has landed on the words cracker and nasty in the same cell. And Cracker Nasty is a friend of mine, also known as Master Hennessy. Captain Master Hennessy, Captain Cracker Nasty, I guess you could say now. And I have a lot of stories about Carrie, which that's the real name. That's the so I have a lot of stories about Mr. Hennessy. And so one of them involves, we'll just pick another one here. This one involves a frozen alligator head and a brand new out of the package grenade launcher. And so we'll just go on about this. So it starts off pretty innocent, right? Normal day out at the fish farm, just going to, shoot some stuff with some friends like we always did. And so I get there and I had to stop on the way because I had to get some beer. And so I go and get beer. And at the time I was drinking Yingling, which their main bottling plant is there in Tampa. So go figure, to my surprise, there was no cold Yinglings. They just had like a tower of like 6-packs. So I grab a warm 6-pack. And I'm like, okay, well, there's a fridge in the, in the incubator house, which is a standalone cinder block building with a bunch of concrete casket liners out back. Another story for another time. Also known as redneck hot tubs. There was a lot of them. And so I go and I walk into the little shack and I go, and instead of putting my beer in the fridge, I go to put it in the freezer. And I open the freezer and there is an alligator head about, the size of my torso in this freezer. And there's a bunch of like, pork sausages and other stuff from boar and everything else that they catch up there, and they keep it out there for the grill. And there's just this big ass alligator head in there. So I take my beers and I kind of pull them all out and I put them I'm like, well, surface area is good. And this alligator is clearly frozen. So, I kind of just lined my beers up on the scales of the head on the back down this alligator, because there wasn't much room left. I couldn't fit the whole 6-pack in there. I kind of had to go individual bottles. So I did. And so we go out there, and Kerry, he's got this AR-15, and he's got an attachment for the bottom of it that's a grenade launcher. So when they sell these at gun shops down in Florida, you can buy them, and you buy smoke grenades for them. They obviously don't sell real grenades.
Okay.
Well, so what ends up happening is, unbeknownst to us, Kerry had bought a couple of real live grenades from his uncle that go in these tactical grenade launchers. And these are turns out they were anti-armored vehicle grenades.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So we're out there, we're having a great time. We're taking these smoke bombs, we're shooting them into the pond. And then his buddy looks over at him and he's like, oh man, let's go grab that gator head and shoot one of these things into the mouth of it and see all the smoke come out of the gator mouth, and we'll get some photos next to it. It'll be awesome. So Kerry's like, yeah, that sounds great. So he goes in there, grabs the alligator head, comes back with one of my beers stuffed in the alligator's mouth, and insists that I drink it out of the alligator's mouth while he's holding it. So there is a photo somewhere out there of me holding a full alligator head with a Yingling bottle stuck in its mouth, drinking the beer out of the alligator. So Kerry loads up a live grenade into this. Well, we put one in there with smoke, and he shoots it into the mouth of this thing that he's got propped open. And it was kind of lackluster. Smoke just kind of flew out one way of the open mouth. It wasn't as much fun as we thought, as we envisioned. We pictured eye sockets and noses and smoke coming everywhere. No, there was none of that.
Okay.
And Kerry's like, we got to give that another go. And so he loads up another smoke grenade. Little did we know it was a real grenade.
He knew
it was a real grenade. And he's like, and so we kind of got a little hint of that something was a little off, because he took a couple of steps back, which is something Kerry didn't do very often. And so he gives this thing, he aims it up, and he shoots this freaking alligator head with this live grenade. And us and everything within about 50 yards of us was just covered in little chunks of frozen, crispy alligator brains. So, it was, again, and then so Kerry, of course, he's like, now that's more what I was talking about. And everyone's just like stunned. We're like, what the hell just happened? Like, no one knew there was live grenades.
Right.
Yeah. Tyler Durden. No.
Plot twist. This is actually just Nick, and he has a mental break and doesn't realize that it's him as another character. Tyler Durden. I haven't thought about that in a long time.
Oh God. And
wow. G squared. See you later, alligator.
Yeah. See you later, alligator. And so that was, so that was, again, a normal everyday occurrence, every weekly occurrence with Kerry. We're just going out on the farm. I ended up coming home, picking just little bits of alligator brain out of like literally everything I was wearing. Everyone did, they all kind of went home that day with just like a little piece of cracker nasty with them.
Why not?
That was just another day at the farm. Why not come home with covered in, grenade smoke and little bits of frozen alligator?
I can tell you I have not had that experience. So
no,
yes.
Not many have. And to answer Jill's question, there's one person that can validate just about all of these stores. Two people, one, my business partner, Tom Beckman, and the other one, Alicia, my sister from another mister. The next time it lands on Cracker Nasty, we'll tell the story about how Alicia almost drowned Carrie out of anger in his pool in Gibsonton one time.
Wow.
We'll do that one next.
And Julie in the chat has she shot her first AR with Cracker Nasty's dad, so she can back up this as well.
You absolutely can.
Wow. Okay. All right. If we get Cracker Nasty again, we got pass for today. We got to keep this one going. Okay. All right. So somebody submitted this. This was from a couple weeks ago, and it actually fits kind of perfect. You mentioned a bank earlier, which I thought was hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't really know anything about these differences. Do you know any info on bank versus credit union?
Oh, I mean, there's tons. I mean, like, one's a member owned. The reason they call it a credit union, it's like a member where you have a member ID and not an account number so much.
Okay.
With a credit union is credit unions are owned by the customers. So credit unions are not shareholder owned banks.
Interesting.
They are by member, owned and voted, credit unions. And so there's a number of, there's a lot of similarities, right? They have checking accounts, and checking accounts in the United States are FDIC insured, and all the things that you'd normally get. Except the only difference with a credit union, it really boils down to the fact that they keep a lot of things in their servicing and their lending. It happens in-house. And what that means is when you go to a bank and you get a loan, chances are you get a funding bank, call it, your Bank of America. But whenever you then go to pay that loan, you might have another servicing company. It'll be like servicing dot something firstfed.com or whatever. And that's because your bank sells those loans, right? So like as soon as your bank approves you for a loan, all they're doing is packaging your debt up with a bunch of other debt. And then instead of Bank of America waiting 30 years to get that money back from the interest from their mortgage, they'll sell that to Loan Depot. And Loan Depot is a wholesale aggregator of loans, and that's who you make your payment to, because Loan Depot doesn't want to talk to 1,000 people and approve 1,000 loans, but they want to buy 1,000 loans, and they want the profit of interest from 1,000 loans. Bank of America doesn't want to service 1,000 loans, but they want to have 1,000 customers that they talk to about loans. So Bank of America will talk to you about a loan, they get you approved, and then they say that you have a certain credit profile, and it's A, double A, subprime, whatever your credit category falls into, and they package those together, and they say, hey, we were going to make $1 billion off of all these loans if we waited for them to pay all their interest, and we had to wait 30 years. But instead of waiting 30 years, we'll make $850,000. We'll make $850 million instead of $1 billion, and you get to buy $1 billion worth of debt for $850 million. So Loan Depot makes $150 million. Bank of America, they make their $150 million, and you're paying your loan off to somebody else, and they don't care about you. Credit unions issue a loan, they approve a loan, they fund a loan, and they service a loan through the life of the loan. So they don't sell it. And the reason for that is they are not for profit. So what does G squared mean? They say they are considered a not for profit. Like, what does that mean, a not for profit bank? It's kind of an oxymoron, right? Well, that just means that they're not making profit off of the business they do with you from other people. They still make money off of you to support their operations and to support their bank, but they don't have shareholders, so they don't pay dividends, right? They don't have profit. They spend all the profit they make on their operations, and they consume all of it. And that way it supposedly has them operate at higher standards, better integrity, and they help you get your credit back up because it's of their benefit if they do. So it's a more of a it's definitely more of a one-on-one kind of a relationship with you and an entity, and they typically have better one-on-one relationships with their customers because of that. Because they're kind of in it with it for the long haul.
But so the only thing I would add that I've noticed, so I belong to a bank, not a credit union. We recently in our area, so Dort Federal is like the big like credit union around us or whatever. I think it's Dort Federal, but they probably 3 months ago had a big cybersecurity attack, and people's debit cards from the credit union didn't work for like 3 days. And
Right.
so they were kind of screwed. No bank that I've ever had has had that. No bank during these recent ones has had that. So it seemed like they might be a little more vulnerable.
That could
And
be a bit of a one-off,
yeah,
and I will say the regional small guys. So like if you're a credit union, the federal government, because of that problem, came back a while ago and said, hey, we like the fact that you're small financial independent entities. We don't like the fact that we can't regulate you
right.
the same way we do a big bank, because you don't have
Right.
the money to support the kind of infrastructure that we
Yeah.
need to regulate. So what they did was they spun up all these other companies. Like an example of one is called Henry Schein. So Henry Schein is a credit union and small regional bank hosted platform. So every regional bank and every regional credit union that isn't of a certain caliber and size is forced by the government to actually operate under a certain set number of hosted solutions. So like your security, your bank info and all that stuff doesn't necessarily live at your small regional bank. It all lives in a giant Amazon data center somewhere hosted by like Henry Schein.
Gotcha.
But then a bunch of these guys are grandfathered in. So when they elect not to run on a hosted system and host their own, that's when you get that crap, because they go down and they don't have $1 billion company backing them up with infrastructure. They're left to recover. So I would be careful on size. It's not size, and personal attention doesn't always equate to a good banking experience. So it really is based on your individual needs.
Hey, I learned something. Thank you, guys. All right. Next one. We got time for hopefully one more here. Nope. We got keep. Oh, okay.
Thank
I was
goodness.
gonna say, Cracker Nasty, you're not doing it. All right.
I don't know. I texted him and let him know that we keep picking him too. He's like, oh man. I'm like, you're gonna need to get on camera, and he's like, I'm in. I'll do it.
Anytime you set up a Tuesday, I'll make it work, Nick. That would be awesome. All right. This one was submitted by somebody in the chat today, and it is accountability at work. They didn't elaborate. They didn't go any further on this. So I want to hit it to you, Nick, because you have employees. You have been an employee. You've had a bunch of different angles of work, right? Air quotes. Yep. What does that mean to you, and what is your riff, your rant, your thought, your tangent on accountability at work?
My 1 minute rant about accountability at work is I mean, to me, accountability at work means that you're going to do what you say you're going to do, and someone shouldn't have to manage you more than they manage their business. And like there's like this thing where I got told by somebody when I first started a job that I shouldn't have been given because I wasn't ready for it, but I did. And he says, just remember, he's like, I'm in charge here. And if you need me, I'm always here. Just remember, if you need me, I don't need you.
If you need me, I don't need you.
Yeah. It means if I need him to do my job, he doesn't need me there doing that job.
Right. Right.
And so accountability at work to me with that guy meant do what I said I knew how to do without doing it wrong or having him show me how to do it, or else I wasn't going to have that job. Right. So accountability for me was from a really early on set was like, you better make not knowing how to do your job not your boss's problem. You better make that your problem. Like, right. Accountability means that you signed up to do a job. And if you make it my problem that you don't know how to do that job properly and don't use the tools at your disposal to learn how to do it properly, I cannot consider you accountable. And if being late is someone else's problem, if not being able to get your car fixed was someone else's problem, if getting pulled over was the cop's problem, if all those things are someone else's problem, I can't count on you. And that doesn't stand up to me as being an accountable person.
Oh man, I for a long time was a pool manager. So I managed lifeguards, usually late high school, early college. And
that's
I cannot tell you the Sunday morning phone calls that I would get where the pool was supposed to open at 10 and the lifeguard would get there and say, hey, we're locked out. Where's the manager? I don't know. I don't really feel like calling them right now. Hey, so-and-so's not here yet. We can't open because we don't have 2 lifeguards for the legal amount. And hey, and the excuses that you just brought up and the concept that I was with my family and I had to deal with all that and I hired them to be there and manage and do, I don't know if I could ever manage people like that again because it was such a burnout experience for me dealing with those excuses.
I'm not good at that. Like,
no,
I'm not an excuses person. So like coming at me with excuses is just a futile effort. Like, people can tell instantly on my face probably too. Like when you're telling me some of your excuses, how checked out I am as soon as you start doing it. Yep. I'm like, don't care at all. Like, don't care. Like, it's 100%. Either do it or don't do it. And you know what? If you get stuck behind the same school bus every day going to work and it's annoying to you, leave 10 minutes earlier. It's not that school bus's fault. That's your fault.
Unbelievably true. Unbelievably true. And Max says, what about life? I mean, I think it's probably all related.
The way you do everything's the way you do anything's the way you do everything, man.
100%. We last little thing here, tidbit, just burned my britches. Maddox had a soccer game on Sunday. They won 6-3 against a very good team. He balled out, but he had a birthday party. So the birthday party was from 11:30 to like 2:30 or whatever, but he could only be there from 11:30 to 12:30. So we got there like any sane human. It was at a trampoline park. We got there at 11:15 because we wanted to get him checked in. He only had an hour to play. So we wanted to maximize his time, you know? We get there and we're like, hi, checking in. They're like, are you mom? And Sam goes, yeah, because Maddox was with her. She was like, oh, okay. So you're here for, let's say, I'm not going to say his real name, but let's say Jeffrey's birthday party. And she's like, yep. And she's like, okay, mom, we're going to get this all going. And then we realize
she thought you were the party organizers.
That we're the mom of the birthday party. Yeah. And they're not here yet. And I'm like, okay, I mean, I guess we are early people. That's just what we do. 11:20. 11:25. It's their party and they were not there on time. I just kept telling Sam I'd be mortified. Dude. Mortified. And guess how much they cared when they walked in the door?
Hey guys. Anyway, where are we? Did anybody get anything set up yet?
Almost verbatim. Like my brain couldn't handle it. And I was like, I know how you are at work. I know how you are at sports games. Yep. I know how you are at family functions. Yep. I could not. If it's our party, I'm there in the parking lot waiting for the employees to open. I'm losing my mind waiting for them. I would be mortified if somebody got to my party before me. Mortified.
Come on. Oh, dude, I would just be, that'd be mental pandemonium for me.
Yeah. Oh. So, yes, that was my life accountability. So, yeah, and Amber, she says, me either. You're getting paid to do the job. Do it the best of your ability. Yep, absolutely.
And listen, life gets in the way. Don't think I'm one of those people that's going to be like, oh, Nana passed away unexpectedly and you live with her and you got to be able to go do this for your mom. Like, fine. If Nana passed, if all of a sudden 8 Nanas pass away in the first 6 months I know you, we got a problem. You know what I mean? Like, so either you had like a really diverse, accepting family tree and you actually do have 8 Nanas. Or
Nasty, I'm looking at you.
That's it. Cracker Nasty, Mr. Beanpole family tree. Okay. Gibsonton, Florida. All right.
Oh, man. All right, guys. We got to go because it'll lead to another story and another story and another story and just keep going. Hey, keep an eye on Instagram, you guys. We're going to keep doing these topics. I didn't know about credit unions. Thank you. I didn't think about accountability at work. Thank you, guys. And I sure as heck didn't start my day thinking about Cracker Nasty. So thank you guys on all of those.
And thanks for that.
Yes, thank you for that. We'll be here on Tuesday, 1 p.m. next week. We hope to see you there. Hey, Dr. Nick sells absolutely amazing beard stuff for amazing people. And it's not just beards. There's shampoo, there's conditioner, there's face wash, there's body wash. They have accessories. They've got swag and merch. If you respect this company, giving their time for a stream like this, giving transparency, and just going about it in the best intentions, go give their website a browse. If you haven't thought about them in a while, maybe just put it back to front of mind. It's all appreciated. I can't recommend them enough. Nick, take these people away.
Oh man, listen, if Cracker Nasty isn't done here in the next couple of weeks to take this damn Cracker Nasty story off the wheel, we're going to start getting like some national attention, and just even tuning in may or may not make you a member of a less than desirable list. Yep. So, I say we make that happen because we all don't want to get tied up in that kind of nonsense. But listen, we're on what? This is 112. We got 113 coming up next week on the 29th. So look at that. You're going to be streaming twice next week, I guess. You got us in the afternoon. You got another one next week. So we'll talk about that next week too, I'm sure. And come see us 1:00. We'll be here October 29th, just right around the corner, 2 days away from Halloween. Thank goodness.
Woo. All right, guys. Have a great day.